Yo, what is up guys, it's your boy Shieldcoomer, and in this video we're going to cover a very nice dungeon called Brackenhide Hollow. It's done on 22, Tyrannical, Spiteful, and the new Affix, what was it, what is it called? Corporeal or whatever? Yeah, either way, basically, like, the only change really we're doing in terms of like talents dealing with affixes is we're going to pick mind control and we're going to pick shackle undead, basically because shackle undead works on these incorporeal mobs. So I feel like you as a healer, you have like a very good choice to just like deal with it. And second, with the mind control, it's very nice because sometimes you will get cornered by Spiteful, and this is something that people have started doing more and more in Priest, and I really like it, which is just mind control Spiteful, and it doesn't really give you much. Like, it's basically just a way of getting them off of you, because I mean, realistically, in real life scenarios, they're almost never gonna get to hit anything, and when they do, they deal very little damage and stuff. It's not like they actually do anything else, but it helps. Like, sometimes, you know, you won't have that luxury of just running away, or you might want to kind of like keep casting and stuff, and it's way smaller of a loss to just like mind control it than it is to keep running infinitely away. And also, like, it's, you know, it's a shame that we don't have the shining force anymore, so we don't have that like cool knockback. So currently the only thing we have to deal with it is like fear, and unfortunately, at least in my experience, fear doesn't really work, because these like DPS usually just uses like Spiteful. I don't want to say pad damage, but I mean, I'm looking at some DPS padding damage, but in reality, like, most of people don't really track whether they're feared or CC'd and stuff, and they just keep on blasting regardless. And here you can see like very nice like shackle on that. It's pretty chill. And obviously if somebody CCs yours, like, again, you know, as a healer, I mean, it sucks, but it's way smaller of a loss for you to simply like reshackle than it is for somebody like you know, for like a DPS to recast their CC. So you should try to do it as much as possible, obviously in the moments where there isn't like intense healing required. Now for us as disc, like, that kind of sucks, because we really do, we're kind of thirsty for globals. We really hate wasting globals on dumb shit, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, still this is much better than like explosive, for example. So, you know, I'll take it. And anyway, this guy said he's reloading, so I'll just go on like a solo adventure. This wasn't really agreed upon. I didn't really like, this wasn't part of the plan. I just kind of like went on my own whim. This is something you can do as priest very safely. You can, I'm pretty sure you can open every single cage without killing a single mob as a priest. You don't even need fate here. I was just being like extra cautious because I didn't want to screw up. But Mind Suit, guys, is such a powerful utility, and as if it wasn't strong enough, they made it AoE now, which is it's just completely crazy. I love this ability. It's not to be underestimated. It can be really big in keys, especially like in groups that are good at utilizing it. A great example of how powerful it is was Azure Vault in the last season, where some cool skips were allowed because of it. Some very dangerous mobs were skipped, which completely entirely changed route. I mean, I always love to say that priests have one of the best utilities in the game in terms of like how much we have, even though not all of it is like extremely useful, unfortunately, you know. I kind of wish disc had stun like Holy does, you know, like a chastise on disc would be so cool. And I feel like it's thematically also more kind of like makes sense for disc to have it, since it's like a very offensive spell. I know Holy players are gonna hate me for saying this. I mean, don't get me wrong, guys, like, Holy is growing on me, you know. I used to say like Holy is such like a noob spec, but I mean, I progressed, you know. I played Holy a lot in season 3 and 4 because it was meta, and both in raids and in keys. And right now I'm progressing raid as Holy, and Holy really has grown on me. But you can't deny that it's such a like difference. Going from disc to Holy is like playing an entirely different game. I feel like Holy is definitely one of those like very noob friendly specs that anybody can almost play. Now, don't get me wrong, you still can optimize a lot of things and be there's like a huge difference between good player that plays holy and you know, a noob that plays holy, of course, but it's just like a much more simpler playstyle and very kind of like basic. Just not for me personally. At least in dungeons I get bored when I play holy, but I do like one thing that does happen when you play holy is you become like, this is something that's underestimated quite a bit in this video game, and that is like the ease of execution of your class. Like, you know, these specs that require these like precise timings and ramps and all of that, like they're cool to play, and when executed properly, usually you do get rewarded for that. But in most cases, like, you know, that's kind of like why holy is better right now in raid than disc. It's not because holy is like actually that much better. It's more so that holy is just so much easier to play that if the margin like that, if numerically disc is just a tiny bit better, it's not worth playing it because of how much more difficult it is to play it. Like and right now it's even worse numerically, so it's like double reason not to play it. It's just really sad right now. Like, I hope Blizzard does something about this. Anyway, I want to focus on this boss because this boss is very important. Probably hardest boss of this dungeon, guys. I always open like this. I open with a PI and a Rapture, and as you've seen, like with sometimes you might need like a little bit of extra externals and stuff, but you can just basically deal like instantly with this gash frenzy, and this ability is absolutely terrifying. So basically the way it works is he will jump on everyone, he will hit you quite hard as well, and he will apply a very nasty dot, and the dot never goes away unless it is either dispelled, and you can dispel this. You need like special de-bleed dispel, which only like a few classes in the game have, and or it is healed above 90%. So basically your goal is to either prevent enough damage to make people not go under 90% at all, or heal them very quickly. So basically you want to get into these ramp periods here, and you can see how like I put barrier down, and then some instant radiances, and then we healed up everyone. And actually this was dealt with very nicely. Red Paladin was really trying to die here over and over again. He was how do I put it, like the Ryo in this group, since I've done this key very recently, I remember this very well. Like everybody was pretty high Ryo except for that Paladin. Maybe it's like an alt friend of someone. He didn't play really bad, but I think you will notice that he does make like a little bit more mistakes than this group does on average. But overall, I mean, at least from what I can remember, I guess we'll see by the end of the key, but he actually did a good job, and like and good damage towards the end. So I'm not, you know, I don't mind. Like I understand that not like Ryo isn't like a definitive, it's not like a definitive way to tell somebody's skill. I have met a lot of players with very high Ryo that are absolutely garbanzo. And I have also met a lot of players with very low Ryo that actually have like a lot of potential and just lack like experience in getting into higher groups to kind of learn. But you can see that they're like fundamentally good players and like good thinking, good movement and stuff like that. You know, some people just lack that little bit of a push. Maybe they're scared, maybe they don't. And here there I showed you guys that I find it really funny that I remembered to show you guys. I actually didn't take the disease dispel, which is a big mistake in this dungeon. I should have. For some reason my frames are not showing diseases here, but there's a lot of diseases here that you just, I mean, there it is, there it's showing it now. So like diseases, I mean, it's a good idea to have disease dispel in this dungeon in particular. It's probably like one of the main dungeons where you want disease dispel. So yeah, just a little bit of a blunder on my part. And really guys, with these packs there's really not much to say. It's pretty much just kill the trees, take care of the lashers. There is obviously a lot of ways you can maximize your DPS as disc and also your HPS, so things like this don't happen. But here this was like kind of a mistake on the team's part. We really didn't I think he got hit by the frontal, by the way, there. I'm not entirely sure, but there's also like a nasty bleed that these lashers apply. So they will apply like two things. They'll apply you have these decaying totems, and they'll like constantly apply this disease which decreases everybody's haste, and then the lashers will jump on someone and apply a dot. So, you know, obviously we should have focused totem here. I didn't even notice that the totem like we're just kind of trolling. We have two decaying totems here that are up and just free casting, and once again, for some reason my frames are not showing it. I think it might be because I didn't take disease dispel, so it's not detecting it as like a dispellable debuff, so it's not showing. But that's like a bug or something, I don't know. Grid has been, I gotta say, you guys, I usually love grid and I will always talk good about grid, but I gotta say, like, default settings in grid are bad. Like grid needs, I don't know who like manages that add-on, but they really don't keep up very fast. I mean, it takes them like 2 months to upload proper like buffs and debuffs and stuff, and it's a shame because I think add-on has like so much potential. But if you know what you're doing with your settings and stuff, I mean, honestly, as a healer that's trying to like, you know, get good and, you know, push and stuff, you really need to get good at like making your own UI and putting emphasis on things that you consider worthy of dealing with, you know, like because different, how do I put this, like different healers will have struggles with different things, you know. For example, things that are dangerous to you as you know, to your group when you're playing with the discipline priest might not be that dangerous for like, let's say, a shaman healer, or I don't know, evoker, you know. It's different things, just, you know, like bleeds, poisons, magic dispels, fears, all sorts of, you know, garbage that can happen in these dungeons. You just need to see the things that matter to you, you know. Sometimes there's no point in seeing like too much. It can be distracting. That's definitely one point that I like to kind of mention always, is, you know, even though like information is like a very powerful tool, too much information can be detrimental to you, to your like focus and to your performance, because you really want to put emphasis on things that are important, you know, like, does this need a stun? Does this need like an instant dispel? Do you need to track how many ticks this dot has? And so on and so on. And these things are what really matters. You don't need to be tracking, you know, all sorts of gibberish that you can't do much about. You want to track things that you can do things about and that you need to react to, right? And of course, like, as you get better, you will notice that you might want to track like some more things, some less things. But one of the biggest like things I see with like a little bit newer players is for players that just might not like care that much about improving or aren't as invested, you know, I notice like they'll just go to somebody else's UI and they'll copy this and copy that, and then that's how you get clutter. And even like, honestly, my UI is pretty cluttered as well right now. I've been really thinking hard like how I can solve that, but I'll be honest, like I use most of the information I have on the screen. Maybe like damage numbers aren't really necessary, I guess, but I kind of like having them for some reason. I really don't know, like it's tough to tell, really. It really is tough to tell. Like maybe removing the bars from the bottom, but I'm so used to them at this point that yeah, I don't know. It's a tough call. It's a tough call. But yeah, basically like decluttering your UI and making it like good for your eyes and specifically catering it to your needs is something that I feel like is a very necessary step in order to improve.
Necrotic breath. Summon totem. Withering. Decaying roots. Stomp. Necrotic breath. Necrotic breath. Stomp.
And yeah, as I said, guys, basically we're just clearing here. Like I'm out of content here, guys. Help me out. I don't know what to say. Like we're just killing these oaks, and it's literally same pack after same pack, and it's just like lashers need to be killed. This group, by the way, is really not doing a good job at this. Like we are really not doing a great job. Like on Tyrannical, guys, these packs should be deleted. Like these packs should disappear from the face of the earth. And there's like so many lashers, so like classes that have good natural cleave really go hard here, and they can generate like so many resources. For example, Shadow Priest can like just dot everything up and then funnel into the main guy and stuff. So I don't know why things lived as long as they did, but it's okay. Like I'm not mad about it. It was a little bit cringe because, you know, it just lasted a long time, and the dot hurt, but that's about it. And this boss, guys, okay, so I'll explain this boss. This boss is very simple. I don't know, people used to think this boss is hard, and okay, in the first week it really was like a little bit hard, but like this really might be like one of the easiest bosses in this entire tier. Basically, the way it works is you will be constantly summoning these ads, and ads need to be interrupted and killed ASAP. It's as simple as you just have to interrupt them before they cast. They hurt a lot. They will kill you if you do not focus them. So simple as you just switch to them if you don't want to wipe. That's it. That's one mechanic. Obviously don't stand in green stuff. That's the second mechanic. I mean, you know, seems kind of obvious. Here I was out of position, so ideally you want to spawn these guys in the melee. That's just on me. That's me being like a little bit on autopilot there and not really thinking about it. And second mechanic is consume. So basically consume is when he starts pulling in people. You will see now, like he's pulling in, right? He's gonna throw vines, and now if you stand in this circle, you get consumed, right? When you have to get consumed, otherwise he kind of goes rampant and like kills everyone. So somebody needs to be consumed. So the best way to handle it is usually to have like 2 people that will rotate, because once you get consumed you get a big debuff, and if you take it again with that debuff, you take like 500% extra damage or something, which honestly like some classes can't even handle. Mostly tanks, obviously, like tanks are able to tank that, but there's no need for that when you can just put a DPS there. And I suggest saving your paint subs for your tank if he decides to do both, or for DPS that decides to go in, unless they have an immunity. And the great part about it is that you can mostly also DPS so while you're into it, but you do lose some uptime, so you can even go there as a healer. I have done that. It is perfectly safe. It does hurt a little bit, and you also can't like properly fully heal during that time. But in terms of like group losing damage and stuff, like it's probably best that you and tank rotate in theory. Obviously figure out what works best for your group, but as I said, the boss really is that simple, and like there is really no reason for you to wipe on this boss ever at all. And after this, guys, we'll just be skipping, so I'm just gonna like speed it up a little bit. So like here, guys, it's just a basic mindsuit skip. I mean, I'm just gonna speed this up so I don't waste like everybody's time. Really nothing exciting is happening. We're just like mindsuiting the ad on the bridge, and then we're just skipping towards the boss basically. We also pulled the birds and the bear into the boss. I don't think that was intentional, but I would actually suggest doing this. I'd suggest getting, depending on your route, you can pull even more trash into this boss as long as you know what you're pulling, because this boss, guys, is really simple. Again, I'll try to explain the mechanics. They're extremely simple, and again, if I'm missing something and stuff like these videos are not a guide, so please take things I say with like a grain of salt. This isn't like some tutorial or something. I'm just basically like commenting the videos that I did. So you know, in hopes that people find it entertaining and in hopes that somebody might learn a thing or two, because I hear people complaining about this all the time, and not a lot of people play it because it's, you know, dubbed to be a complicated spec, and it is. And like, unless the payoff is huge, people don't really want to play it that much. So I would definitely suggest, you know, obviously doing your research and stuff, because there's really a lot of things to optimize with this spec. But as I said, basically this boss is like really simple. The way it works is obviously he will do this like random damage to the players, and then he will be calling on his hyenas. He will be throwing these traps. So the important thing is to bait these traps in a relatively like controlled manner, and then bait hyenas into the traps to stop them, otherwise they will eat somebody. So somebody will get this meat thrown on them, and when you have meat, hyenas will fixate on you. And the real danger of this boss is really when he uses his ability. I forgot what it's called. Yeah, there it is, Master's Call. It's a pretty quick cast, so people really need to be ready to interrupt. And if you miss that interrupt, what happens is hyenas get bloodlusted, and they will go like really fast, and they will also hit harder, and they're immune to CC. So pretty much somebody will die. So really important to interrupt. As long as you interrupt, and as long as you aren't like tanking these hyenas, there's really never a reason to like for anyone to die to this boss. I will give one small disclaimer here and say that this boss actually really does hit hard on a tank constantly. I don't know if my tanks are just being greedy or something, but I've seen like multiple situations where tanks have gotten decimated by this boss and never really lost a tank to it, but I've seen it get close. So I would just advise a little bit of caution, and just like keeping like atonement up on tank, and like keeping your eye on the tank, and just kind of like making sure they're, you know, healthy, and you know, just ensuring they stay alive basically. Which, you know, in modern World of Warcraft, it really isn't like healer's job to keep tank alive in most cases, but we can help. And Disc is perfect like for this modern playstyle of tanks, because our atonements usually will provide enough healing on their own. Because if you like take into account how many, you know, mobs there are, and like purge the wickeds every time on them, and like your DPS, just in general passive DPS that you do through like while you're healing and stuff, it just all adds up, and you will provide like quite a big amount of passive healing to your tanks. So make sure you're using that. Like sometimes I catch myself being lazy and not really casting power word shields, because they really don't feel very impactful right now, but they are, they do matter, and it is one of your like core spells. And I really do suggest like most of the time casting it either on a tank that is like in danger potentially, or on a DPS that's currently taking like single target damage, or just like using it passively on the tank even when there's like no real danger to tank. Just like providing that little bit of extra healing through your passive damage by using one global will allow your tank to play much more aggressive, because he's still getting healed passively by your atonements. And I'm sure they will appreciate that, because they will be able to use their like resources to be more aggressive and do more damage, rather than just constantly fighting for their life. One of the things I've heard tanks say is like, oh, I hate this priest like feels bad to play. And I think part of that is because I think in general public, like, there's not too many good discs, just because the spec is a little bit more complex. I'm not saying I am one, by the way. I'm not, like, I'm just saying like disc is way more like complicated, I would say, to play properly, and requires like way more like experience than, you know, some more straightforward spec, like let's say I don't know, for example, I don't want to say like anything and offend anyone, but you know, it is a little bit unorthodox, you guys have to admit. Like, you know, healing by doing damage is definitely like not the basic way this game was meant to be played. It's like a very like flavorful playstyle that is very unique and interesting, and definitely different from majority of other healers. Anyhow, this route was pretty good. Like the only thing I didn't really like with this group is we just lacked damage, it felt, on the trash, I feel like. But then I look at the overall, and I mean, we're doing good DPS. Like, you know, I'm doing 32k. That's a little bit lower than I'm used to, but that's because I think that's because I removed the amulet. to get some extra stats. Yes, I have actually stopped playing Amulet, guys. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stick with that decision quite yet or not, but I do quite like having like a lot more haste and a lot more crit. It's definitely made me feel more powerful. I don't know if I actually am more powerful, but considering how steeply Disc scales with stats, I think it might be like a good decision to do, and I'll think about it a little bit more. But now that I finally got like good rings, I think that might be the play. But yeah, as I said, the only thing I didn't really enjoy with this group is that I felt like we were progressing a little bit slow, but honestly we were good on time and the damage looks good, so I really don't think I have any right to complain. I think the boys played pretty good. So yeah, now for the final boss. So as you guys know, this boss used to be like very scary. It is still a boss that you really need to play properly, because unfortunately Blizzard seems to currently implement a lot of very punishing mechanics, which on some ways it's kind of good, but it also can be very frustrating to play like in pugs with. So the way this works is like if you fall behind on the totem damage, you will get a debuff that reduces your damage for quite some time, which obviously means you will fall behind even further. So basically, if you screw up first totem, you're screwed. And a lot of it comes down to tank and his like totem positioning. So a lot of people don't know this, but you can completely predict the way where the totem will spawn, because it always spawns opposite of the boss. So basically, the tank should never spawn the totem in the cloud as he sometimes will do. This like you can see here, like see opposite corner, like we were in the top left and it spawned at the bottom right. So it's, you know, looking towards the wall, like from the direction we came. So it's definitely something you can control and should control, and it's very important because especially if you're playing like a melee heavy comp and the totem spawns in the cloud, you really don't have like a way to deal with it, and it's pretty bad. It's really bad, and it's something that you have to be very wary of. And obviously there's not much you can do as a healer except just help with DPS. I like to save, not really save, but I like to be aware of when the totem is spawning and save my big radiances for the totem, which here I didn't do, for example. And as you will see, like it will be quite tight, and that's why I switched like even faster than normally. Just like a pretty fast switch, and just make sure that we are dealing with it. And here we had like a second in core, and we did manage to interrupt it, which was good. And you know, the King's Strength basically, yeah, I guess I should probably mention this as well as a healer. I mean, honestly, like healing required on this boss is pretty low. Like as you can see, I'm only doing like what, like 20k, 30k. It's very low. Like this is very low number. You should pay attention to tank a little bit, because tanks do get clapped quite hard. So just make sure like tank is being kept up. That's the first thing. And second thing is you could use potentially Rupture and a barrier for the King's Strength. So basically the way it works is the King's Strength is like this boss is, you know, by using his abilities and just naturally over time, he is getting these, the energy. And you can see it underneath his like frame. And here we actually got a tick, by the way. That was really scary. But we managed to come back. And you can see here, like when he gets to 100, he will cast the King's Strength. And what basically the King's Strength just like claps everybody for quite a lot of damage. And it's very scary. It does deal quite a bit, even on like 22, so I'm assuming even more on higher keys, obviously. And it's just something you gotta be wary of, because it does hurt. It definitely does hurt. So just something to be aware of and be ready for that. I'd suggest saving some heavy heals for that. And anyway, pretty clean run overall, 3 deaths only. As I said, like this boss on Tyrannical, I feel like the main danger really is just the first boss, and things get a little bit messy here towards the end, but we did it. And huzzah, plus 22 riot points. You can tell I slacked a little bit. I was a little bit slacking, but I think I caught up a tiny bit. Not as much as I wanted to, but yeah. Anyway, guys, I just want to say, like, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about the video in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the content. It really does help the channel a lot. I know you hate to hear it, and I hate to say it, but that is the reality of the situation, guys. And I truly do appreciate the support on the channel, and I hope to see you guys on the next video. Much love, guys, and sorry for some of the bad audios lately. I don't know what's happening. I'll look into it, but thank you either way for supporting the channel, and much love, and good luck in your keys, guys.